In the year 1206, the world was a collection of fragmented kingdoms. To the east, the mighty dynasties of China. To the west, the glittering caliphates of Persia. Then, from the frigid, desolate grasslands of Central Asia, came a force of nature. An army of mounted warriors that would fundamentally rewrite the map of history. This force was the Mongol horde, and their leader remains one of the most terrifying, yet misunderstood, figures to ever live, Genghis Khan. His name is synonymous with conquest, slaughter, and the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever known. But was he just a ruthless barbarian? The truth is, the man born Temüjin was a brilliant architect of organization, law, and strategy. He turned a collection of warring tribes into an unstoppable juggernaut. This is the story of how an outcast orphan became the universal ruler. Temüjin was not born into nothing. He was the son of Yesugei, a respected tribal chieftain. But this early comfort was violently stripped away. Around the age of 9, Yesugei was poisoned by a rival tribe, the Tatars. The family's followers immediately abandoned them, leaving Temüjin, his mother, and siblings to starve on the unforgiving steppes. This harsh apprenticeship was his true education. He learned about betrayal, about resource scarcity, and about the absolute necessity of self-reliance. He developed the iron will that would define his life. The scarcity was so great it drove him to fratricide. When his half-brother, Bektar, hoarded resources, Temüjin killed him. A brutal act that showcased a willingness to eliminate any threat, even within his own family. But the ultimate humiliation came next. Temüjin was captured by his former clan, the Tayutyut, and enslaved. He was forced to wear a wooden collar, a kang. His escape, aided by a compassionate guard, was his definitive moment of transition. He then did something crucial. He relied on strategic alliances. By marrying Borta, he solidified his relationship with the powerful Conqueror tribe. When Borta was later kidnapped, Temüjin secured military aid from two great Khans, Togrul and Jamuka. This event was not just a rescue mission. It was the first true military campaign of his career, and it marked him as a leader capable of commanding respect and demanding loyalty. He didn't just survive, he mastered the art of leverage. The next 2 decades were defined by a series of merciless battles against former allies, rivals, and entrenched enemies. He fought the Merkids, the Tatars, and his own blood brother, Jamuka. Temüjin wasn't just winning, he was innovating. He smashed the traditional tribal system, promoting men based on merit, not bloodline. He instituted collective discipline, where an entire unit was punished for the failure of one man, forging unbreakable bonds of accountability. His former friend and blood brother, Jamuka, championed the old aristocratic ways, while Temüjin represented the future, a disciplined, merit-based state. The two ideologies clashed, and Temüjin emerged victorious. By 1206, the work of decades was complete. The scattered feuding tribes of the steppe, from the Tatar to the Merkit, were unified, creating a single militarized nation. At a great assembly, or Kurultai, Temüjin was consecrated as the supreme leader. He took the title Genghis Khan, the universal ruler. With a unified force, the new Khan had to keep his men active and loyal. The only way to sustain this new nation was through conquest. His eyes turned from the sparse, dusty steppes to the glittering wealth of the settled world, specifically to the great, but internally weak, empires of China and Persia. Genghis Khan's genius was not just in uniting the tribes. It was in perfecting the single greatest instrument of war the world had ever seen: the Mongol cavalry. The key to their speed was the horse system. Each soldier maintained a string of 3 to 5 tough, hardy ponies. This allowed them to switch mounts frequently, avoiding fatigue and enabling them to cover incredible distances, up to 70 miles a day, a pace unmatched by any European or Chinese army of the era. But speed was nothing without firepower. The core of their arsenal was the composite bow. This weapon was a masterpiece of military engineering, crafted from sinew, horn, and wood. It had a draw weight that Western archers couldn't match, and could fire arrows over 300 meters with lethal force. They carried different arrowheads, light ones for long-range harassing fire, and heavy, armor-piercing ones for close combat. Their technique was masterful, able to shoot backward with the same precision as forward, a tactic known as the Parthian shot, utterly demoralizing to a pursuing enemy. Organization was everything. Genghis Khan abolished the clan structure within the army and enforced the decimal system: units of 10, 100, 1,000, and the Tumen, the regiment of 10,000 men. This system fostered an intense, almost fanatical discipline. If a warrior in a unit of 10 fled, the other 9 were killed. If an entire unit of 10 fled, the 100 were killed. Accountability was collective, creating an unbreakable bond of shared fate on the battlefield. Tactically, they were unpredictable. Their most famous maneuver was the feigned retreat. They would pretend to break and run, drawing the enemy in a disorganized chase, only to turn and unleash a devastating, close-range hail of arrows on the now exposed pursuers. But the brilliance wasn't just military, it was judicial. Genghis Khan codified the Mongol way of life into a supreme law called the Yasa. This code was the bedrock of his empire. The Yasa demanded absolute loyalty to the Khan, but it also mandated religious tolerance, protected women and property, and strictly forbade theft within the army. It transformed the Mongols from a collection of raiders into a disciplined, functioning state, ready to govern the territories they were about to seize. The combined threat, unparalleled mobility, superior weaponry, ruthless discipline, and a binding legal code meant that the world's most sophisticated armies were about to face something they couldn't possibly comprehend. The first step away from the grasslands was strategic and cautious. Genghis Khan targeted the Western Shah, or Shi-Shah, a smaller, less powerful kingdom situated on the western edge of the Jin Empire in northern China. This was the Mongols' testing ground. They faced their greatest early challenge: walled cities. Their mobile cavalry was useless against high stone walls. But rather than being defeated, Genghis Khan adapted. He didn't just smash things, he absorbed knowledge. The Khan recruited and utilized the engineering talent of Chinese prisoners to build and operate siege equipment, catapults, trebuchets, and battering rams. The Mongols learned the art of siege warfare quickly and ruthlessly. Having mastered the art of the breach, he turned to the main prize, the Jin dynasty. Ruled by the Jurchens, the Jin controlled all of northern China and possessed vast wealth. The Jin strategy was simple: defend the Great Wall. But in 1211, the Mongols poured through the wall's defenses, not through overwhelming force, but through stealth and speed, bypassing strongpoints. The ensuing campaign was a bloodbath. Genghis Khan's cavalry devastated the countryside, cutting off supplies to the great cities. The Jin emperor, reeling from the onslaught, offered a humiliating peace treaty. Genghis Khan accepted, taking a vast tribute of silk, gold, and horses. But the peace was a sham. When the Jin emperor retreated his capital to the safer city of Kaifeng, Genghis Khan viewed it as a betrayal of the treaty. The result was the total conquest of the north. In 1215, the Mongols took Zhongdu, the city that would later become Beijing. When the gates opened, the Mongols, driven by years of resentment, unleashed a horror that left the city a smoking ruin for months. Genghis Khan now commanded the resources and manpower of a sophisticated state. He was no longer just a tribal chief. He was the ruler of an incipient empire. But the limitless wealth and trade routes of the Middle East soon drew his gaze westward. The next campaign would be the most violent, most strategically brilliant, and most destructive campaign of his life: the invasion of the Islamic world. Having secured China's north, Genghis Khan looked across the vast expanse of Central Asia toward the mighty, sprawling Khwarezmian Empire. This empire controlled Persia, Afghanistan, and much of modern Central Asia. The Khan initially sought peace and profit. He sent a massive trade caravan of 500 camels laden with goods, seeking an agreement to open the lucrative Silk Road. But the Khwarezmian Shah, Muhammad II, viewed the Mongols with suspicion, arrogance, and contempt. When the caravan reached the city of Otrar, the local governor seized the goods and, on the Shah's orders, executed the traders. Genghis Khan, stunned by this diplomatic violation, sent a second delegation, including 1 Muslim and 2 Mongols, to demand reparations. The Shah made his fatal mistake. He executed the 2 Mongol envoys and sent the Muslim one back with a shaved head as a sign of humiliation. This was not merely a crime against diplomacy. It was a personal insult to the universal ruler. The Khan saw this as unforgivable defiance. In 1219, he ordered the full might of his now global army to mobilize for war. The invasion of Khwarezmia was Genghis Khan's strategic masterpiece. His army, commanded by the Khan and his brilliant general Subutai, did not attack where they were expected. They moved through the vast, thought to be impassable Kisilkum Desert. They emerged suddenly, first at the great city of Bukhara. The citizens' fear was immediate and paralyzing. The Shah's armies, disorganized and scattered, failed to coordinate a defense, believing their immense fortresses would hold. The Khan showed why resistance was futile. At Bukhara and Samarkand, the destruction was absolute. Hundreds of thousands of people were slaughtered, and massive irrigation networks were destroyed, permanently damaging the agricultural capacity of Central Asia for centuries. The Khwarezmian Shah, Muhammad II, proved a failure as a leader. He abandoned his people and fled westward, desperately pursued by an elite Mongol detachment led by Subutai. He died miserably on a small island in the Caspian Sea. The pursuit, however, continued. Subutai tracked the Shah's son, Jalal al-Din, to the banks of the Indus River in 1221, culminating in one of the Khan's most masterful military displays. The events at the Indus cemented the Mongol reputation for tactical brilliance and their terrifying, unrelenting commitment to wiping out any opposition. And this wasn't even the end of their westward journey. At the Indus River, The Shah's son, Jalal al-Din, made his last stand. He commanded a formidable position, but Genghis Khan was ready to deliver the final tactical lesson of his career. The Khan ordered a traditional frontal attack, but this was a diversion. Meanwhile, he secretly dispatched his best troops, the Imperial Guard, along with 10,000 men, on a massive flanking maneuver. They were forced to scale treacherous, snow-capped mountains and traverse a scorching desert. After 10 days of unimaginable effort, they emerged behind Jalal al-Din's left flank, catching his army in an inescapable trap. Realizing all was lost, Jalal al-Din performed one final spectacular act of defiance. He flung off his heavy armor, mounted his horse, and leaped a sheer drop of 30 feet into the roaring current of the Indus River. Genghis Khan himself, watching from a hill, was reportedly so impressed by the warrior's courage that he forbade his archers from firing, saying, "Fortunate is the father who has such a son." But mercy did not extend to the family Jalal al-Din left behind. They were captured and ruthlessly executed. The Khan spent his final years campaigning against the troublesome Western Xia kingdom, the first realm he had defeated, which had betrayed him in his war against Khwarezmia. He demanded that his enemies be eradicated. In August 1227, Genghis Khan died during this campaign, likely due to injuries sustained in a fall from his horse or from illness. He was 65 years old. His final wish was the ultimate testament to his secrecy. He was buried in an unmarked grave somewhere in his homeland, with the entire funeral procession killing anyone they met to keep the location unknown. His resting place remains one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. When Genghis Khan died, his empire spanned nearly 12 million square miles, connecting the Baltic Sea to the Pacific Ocean. His successors, led by his sons and generals, continued his work, conquering Russia, Eastern Europe, and the Middle East. While the Mongol campaigns meant unthinkable death and destruction, perhaps leading to the death of 40 million people, they unintentionally laid the foundation for the modern world. The consolidation of Eurasian power ushered in the Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace. For a century, the Silk Road was safer than ever before. This security allowed the unprecedented exchange of goods, ideas, and, crucially, technology between East and West. The Yam, the Mongol postal and communication system, connected the empire, facilitating the journeys of famous travelers like Marco Polo, whose account of China's immense wealth and sophistication ignited Europe's own age of exploration. Genghis Khan was a man of staggering complexity. A ruthless butcher who massacred millions, yes, but also an unparalleled political and military architect who unified a fragmented nation, created a meritocratic state, and inadvertently pulled the world out of the Middle Ages. He didn't just conquer nations, he forged a bridge between worlds. The legacy of Genghis Khan is not found in the ruins he created, but in the connections he forced upon the globe. What do you think was Genghis Khan's most important legacy? The destruction he caused? Or the Pax Mongolica that followed? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest figures. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep looking back, and never stop following the footprints through the past.